Well, when the Jehovah's Witnesses claim to use the correct name, they say it's Jehovah.
Well, it can't be Jehovah. There's no J in Hebrew, so they're wrong.
Okay. Well, I was going to say, they say if you say it our way, you're better.
The Hebrew letters are Yod, He, Vav, He. And it's based on Hayal, which means I am. Therefore, there is no scholar in the world that doubts that the Yod, He, Vav, He, YHWH, is pronounced Yahweh.
When you talk to fellow Christians, Craig, do they understand what you're saying?
There's many that are aware of what the Scriptures actually say, and there's many that say, don't bother me. My pastor tells me this, that, and the other, and I'm going to believe him. I don't care if they believe me or not. I can just tell you this is what the Scripture says. If you want to take the time to read it and research it, then be my guest. Same thing with Islam. I'll tell you what their Scriptures say, and if you'd like to challenge it, I've told you what the 5 books are, and go buy them and read them.
All right. Well, steering back to Islam, let me ask you this: Is there? And this question came in. Is there a connection between Skull and Bones and Islam in general?
Well, there is a connection between all satanic deception. Skull and Bones is a satanic organization. Islam is a satanic organization. Muhammad, when he got his first revelation in the Hadith, said that he was possessed by a demon. In his last sermon, he said that a demon was attached to him. In his satanic verses, he said he spoke on behalf of Satan. And when you read the Quran, it is obvious that Allah was modeled after Satan. Every one of Allah's characteristics, where he spends his time, what he values, what he loves, and what he hates, are 100% consistent with Satan, including his name. Actually, the Hebrew word Allah is abomination. It's the lawless one. So all religions that are based upon satanic concepts would be related.
Well, I think most of us in this world of saying things politically correct, you make you have no compulsion about saying that Islam is demonic. Most of us say, you should just leave them alone and let be, but you have no problem with that, do you?
Well, first of all, you can't just let them alone because they're killing us, and their religion orders them to wipe us out to the last. The 8th surah says, wipe the infidels out to the last. The 5th surah says, they are surely infidels who say Christ is the Messiah, the Son of God. So the Quran is emphatic, and throughout the Quran it tells Muslims to continue to fight until the only religion is Islam, the only political system on earth is Islam, so it's treasonous to the United States, and they must continue to kill until there are no more non-Muslims alive.
Well, Craig,
so just leaving them alone would not be correct.
Well, I've heard the argument that the Christian Bible is full of vindictiveness and death and murder, and many say, well, if we took that literally, and so the peace-loving Islams may be saying to you that you are taking things literally. In fact, maybe they meant figuratively.
Yeah, they're night and day different. First of all, there isn't a single violent verse in the New Covenant Scriptures. Not one. Not one. Not one. Not even a hint of one. And 100% of the Medina surahs, which would be equivalent to the New Covenant versus the Old Covenant in Islam, they are a war manifesto. The primary theme is fighting jihad in all its cause. Now, if you go to the Old Covenant Scriptures, there's only a period of time of about 60 years where Yahweh told the Jews that I want you to attack people. 100% of the time, it was in the land of Israel for a specific period of time, the time of Revelation, about a 60-year period, and it was only those who had been poisoned with the religion of Baal, which is virtually identical to Islam. So there isn't a single open-ended, open in time, open in area of the world, commandment to be violent in the Old Covenant Scriptures, and again, Islam is full of them. As a matter of fact, if you were to take all of the violent verses in the Old Covenant Scriptures versus the positive ones, the nurturing ones, if you will, and compare those to the good versus bad verses in the Quran, they are different by a magnitude of 50,000 to 1. There is no equivalency here.
Okay. All right, well, we had this question come in here, Craig. By definition, what is a good Muslim and what is a bad Muslim?
Okay, it's a great question. The Quran answers that question. So what I'm going to tell you is not my opinion. It is what the Quran says. The Quran dedicates most of the 9th surah, which was the second to last handed down, to defining good and bad Muslim. It says that a good Muslim is a Muslim who fights jihad in Allah's cause. It says that a bad Muslim is a hypocrite, and that a bad Muslim is someone who will not fight jihad in Allah's cause and is peaceful. It then goes on to say that a peaceful, non-jihadist Muslim, the hypocrite, is the most vile of creatures, the worst of animals, and that Allah hates them more than he hates Christians and Jews, and that Allah personally will attend to the punishment in hell of the peaceful Muslim hypocrite. And then in the 4th surah, Allah tells good Muslims, jihadists, to go murder the peaceful Muslim hypocrites. That is why in Iraq we're seeing good Muslims kill peaceful Muslims in a far greater rate than they're killing Americans.
Well, speaking of murdering Muslims, wasn't there a family in New Jersey, a Muslim family got murdered? Could you tell us, what do you know about that?
What happened there, this family immigrated from Egypt. They were Copt Christians. The Copts are a very old Orthodox denomination of Christianity. In Islamic society, Islam orders Muslims to hate Christians and Jews and to kill Christians and Jews, and that any Christian or Jew who lives in an Islamic society has to pay what's called the jizya, which is a exorbitant tax that is virtually suicidal. And so Copt Christians in Egypt are the subject of continual harassment. Many of them are killed, and those that aren't killed are abused. Even our State Department confirms this. And so this family immigrated to the United States, and living here in a free society, they feel that it is their obligation to do as I'm doing, to expose the way Islam treats Christians and Jews, to expose its violent nature. And so in an internet chat room on Paltalk, the husband and his eldest daughter would do what they're called to do. The Judeo-Christian scriptures order us to be intolerant of false teaching. Not supposed to be violent to false teachers, but be intolerant of them. And so that's what they did. Mm-hmm. So Muslims did to them what they do to me almost every week. I get countless death threats from them. But in this case, the Muslims, being so many of them in the New Jersey, New York area, went to the family's home, and they brutally killed a 8-year-old girl, a 16-year-old girl, the husband, and the wife.
Did they say they were Muslims? Did they leave a mark of a Muslim?
They did several things that are Islamic. One is that the manner of the atrocity was Quranic in terms of the butchering of the head, the mutilation, and the use of knives. And on all of the mainstream Islamic websites in America, they're taking credit for it. As a matter of fact, they're saying, we know that we're called to do this. The only question is, can we get an opinion from Al-Jahar University, which is the #1 Islamic university in the world, it's in Cairo, Egypt, on whether or not it was appropriate for us to kill the youngest daughter. Now, what's interesting is that this family in New Jersey was instrumental in revealing the connection between Sheikh ar-Rahman and the people who were working with them. Sheikh ar-Rahman is the blind sheikh that is now a guest of the federal government, because he was the first one to mastermind the World Trade Center bombing. The first bombing of the World Trade Center was a direct planned by Sheikh ar-Rahman. Now, the interesting thing about him is that he came to the United States because he was evicted from Egypt for having masterminded the assassination of Anwar Sadat. And here in America, we took him in. He is the foremost Quranic scholar in the world. He is the foremost scholar of the Quran in the world, and today he is a convicted terrorist for having masterminded the first bombing of the World Trade Center. Well, Craig, that's pretty hard to explain, isn't it?
Well, let me ask you, Craig, in America's modern church, what are you hearing that's being taught about Islam? Are they saying we all need to get along in love and peace?
Well, first of all, that is not the teaching of the Scripture. The Scripture says we must be completely intolerant of false teaching. So if any pastor is saying we should all get along and tolerate false teaching, that pastor has no business calling themselves a Christian or being